The battlefield was quiet now, though the silence was fragile. Smoke curled from the twisted wreckage of war machines, and scorched ground still hissed under the faint drizzle of acid rain. For hours, we had fought together, humans, aliens, and mercenaries brought together by necessity, not trust. And now, at last, the fighting had stopped. I, Lieutenant Aidan Cross, human soldier of the Terran Expeditionary Force, leaned against the hull of a destroyed transport skimmer, catching my breath. My armor was scratched, scorched, and streaked with mud and blood, not all mine. Across the battlefield, Elarithil, my alien comrade and partner, knelt beside the wounded, her hands glowing faintly as she activated her species' biotic healing abilities. Elarithil was Illyrian, a species known across 3 sectors for their agility, telepathic empathy, and delicate, luminous skin that shifted colors with emotion. She was not a warrior by birth but had been trained for combat, combining lethal precision with a nurturing heart. And through the chaos of this campaign, she had become everything. To me, at least. We had met months earlier, under less violent circumstances. I had been deployed to assist Illyrian colonies under threat from rogue raiders. Our first encounter had been professional. Me, a human soldier, tasked with defending a settlement. Her, an Illyrian engineer trying to stabilize failing energy shields. I had expected a competent ally. Instead, I found someone who could read fear as easily as I could read tactics, someone who laughed softly even when the world burned around her, and someone who challenged every expectation I had of what an alien species could feel. Over time, respect had turned into something deeper. Not the explosive, reckless romance one might expect in a war zone, but a quiet, tethering connection. Every shared watch, every coordinated maneuver, every time our hands brushed while treating wounds, it built something I had never allowed myself to feel in a battlefield before. Something human. Something precious. Now, with the battle over, I watched her from across the ruined terrain. Her skin had dimmed from the vibrant blue it usually held when calm, showing faint streaks of silver, stress indicators in her species. She didn't notice me yet. Her focus was entirely on the surviving soldiers, aliens, and civilians stumbling through the mud. I took a deep breath, my rifle slung loosely over my shoulder, and stepped closer. The mud squelched under my boots. She glanced up, eyes meeting mine, and I caught the faintest flicker of relief, or perhaps acknowledgement, in her gaze. "Ilara," I said softly. She tilted her head. "Aidan." "Are you?" She paused, looking at the battlefield, at the wreckage, at the soldiers limping toward medics. "Are you hurt?" "No," I said, shaking my head. "Just tired." I gestured vaguely at the ruins. "Like the entire sector is tired." She gave me a faint, understanding smile, and then her expression softened. I knew that look. It was empathy, but it carried something more, concern that bordered on affection. I swallowed. The words had been building inside me for months, months of stolen glances, quiet shared moments, and silent promises in the middle of chaos. Words I might never get another chance to say. "Ilara," I whispered, stepping closer so only she could hear over the distant sounds of distant gunfire and emergency sirens. I want to marry you." The battlefield froze for a heartbeat. Not because she expected the words, though I'm sure part of her did, but because no one had ever spoken to her that way. Her skin shimmered sharply, a mixture of silver and violet streaks racing along her limbs, a physiological signal of shock and intense emotion. Tears formed almost immediately, sliding down the sides of her cheeks, catching the dim light of the dying sun filtered through smoke. For an Illyrian, Showing tears was rare, a sign of ultimate vulnerability. I, she whispered, unable to finish. Her voice broke, lilting and musical in a way that made my chest tighten. You mean that? I nodded, stepping closer until I could take her hands in mine. The warmth of her skin, the faint bioluminescence along her arms, the subtle quiver beneath my fingers, it was overwhelming, a living proof that she felt what I felt. I do, I said firmly. I can't promise peace. I can't promise calm. But I can promise me. I want to be with you. In every way I can. As long as you'll have me. She looked down, squeezing my hands tightly. The battlefield, the death, the destruction, it all seemed to vanish. For once, there was only us. Her eyes shimmered with tears, her luminescence shifting between silver, violet, and blue, signaling joy, disbelief, and love all at once. I thought humans didn't. I thought you didn't, she swallowed, blinking rapidly, trying to compose herself. I thought you were only warriors, passing through lives like storms. I laughed softly, shaking my head. Some of us are. Some of us are just stubborn enough to want more. And stubborn enough to find someone worth staying for. Her tears fell freely now, sliding down her cheeks. Aiden, she whispered. I never believed that anyone, any human, would want me. Not like this. You don't have to believe it, I said. You just have to trust me. That's all. And then, carefully, reverently, I lifted her hands to my lips, pressing a kiss to her fingers. The touch was gentle, intentional, a silent vow beyond any words. The sky above the battlefield slowly lightened as a false dawn began. Smoke cleared into soft clouds drifting across a pale orange horizon. Soldiers and civilians moved past, oblivious to the small miracle occurring on the mud-slicked ground. I will marry you, she said finally, voice steady now, though tears still glimmered on her skin. Not tomorrow. Not when the war ends. But with this understanding, this promise. I will marry you, Aiden Cross. Human. I felt an odd mix of disbelief and joy. I grinned, pulling her into a careful embrace. Her arms wrapped around my neck, and for a long moment, we stood together amid the ruins, two soldiers who had survived war and fear, finding hope in the simplest of words. You've made me the happiest human alive, I whispered into her hair. And you've made me the first Illyrian to ever believe a human could truly care, she said, resting her head against my chest. Her luminescence dimmed slightly, settling into a warm, steady glow, a sign of calm contentment in her species. The rest of the day passed slowly. We helped medics tend to survivors, coordinated evacuation efforts, and made sure the station held. But for us, the knowledge of what we had shared, the promise we had made, stayed between us like a shield. Stronger than any armor, more enduring than any battle. That night, as the station lights dimmed and the wounded slept, we sat together on a quiet balcony overlooking the ruined plains. She leaned against me, still trembling slightly, tears dried but eyes shining. I never thought I'd have someone to stay with me, she murmured. You do, I said softly. And I'll stay. As long as you'll have me. Through war, through peace, through everything.